So I'm Jason Tanner. Thanks for coming. I really had no idea how many people would show up, given that Craig Larman's talking about less somewhere nearby and other things are going on. So thanks for coming. I'm going to talk about product road mapping, and I'm curious, what attracted everyone here? Was it that blazing description that most roadmaps suck? I don't know what motivated me to actually type that into the submission system. I was like, I'm just going to go for it. Why not? But I actually believe that's true. In fact, the statement I often make is most roadmaps are dead on arrival. And this is speaking as a former product manager who created lots of dead on arrival roadmaps. So I'm going to dive into why that is and what to do about it. So jumping right in, this is how I see my younger self. No wrinkles, more hair, skinnier. But here I am cranking away because I know what should be on the roadmap. I've had all those customer conversations. I've talked to sales. I've done the interviews, done the market research, competitive analysis, and it's time to sit down and crank out the roadmap. Because my boss, Mike Miracle, no kidding, his name was Mike Miracle, said we need an updated board presentation. And this is what we did. There's a roadmap. And this was what Mike wanted. So we had it. So the way we looked at it and talked about it afterwards, and we've talked about it since then, is it was just enough information to let the board know we had a plan, but nebulous enough that we could voice over just about anything, which is what he did. So this is kind of a fail. So we came back around to update the roadmap, and this is what we got. Anyone have roadmaps that look something like this? Yes, yes. Yes, the typical quarterly plan with the text boxes. But I got to look back now and say, well, what performance were we improving? What security enhancements were we after? Our system at the time was an IT chargeback system. Dozens and dozens of data sources, routers and probes, 6 or 7 collection servers and a central server. Performance could have been improved many ways, and we didn't specify what it was. Right? Unfortunately, that's a fail too, and it's also common. Anyone recognize these images? Yes. Yeah, yeah. So, common, good list, insufficient for execution. And I will make a differentiation between internal development, collaborative development of roadmaps, and what you're going to show to stakeholders and customers outside roadmaps. Okay, so this is an updated version. We got a little snappier here, bigger timeline, smaller font, pack more stuff in, overwhelm people with words. But once again, this is me building this with Mike based on all the input we received, creating this roadmap and delivering it to the organization. Still not good enough. So this is what I'm going to go through. Again, what's the failure mode? What should we be trying to do? And how we should be able to build these roadmaps more effectively and the benefits. Okay? So, number one, the first failure pattern is unilateral creation. Right? One person sitting down, knocking out the roadmap, publishing it to the world. That's the first failure mode, right? I honestly believe that most product managers learn this way. I mean, I did, right? Way back when, 2002-ish, there wasn't a whole lot out there about how to do agile product roadmaps. There was enough information that a product manager's job is to create and publish the roadmap, which the way I heard that was, I need to build this and I need to say, here it is, everybody. This is what we're doing. So I went and did that. Found a template from, I think, Pragmatic Marketing. So let's go build it. Second failure mode is no visible logic. And you saw 3 separate versions of not a whole lot of logic. Like, how do all these things fit together? How are we actually going to go to market and make money? Right? At the end of the day, I'm a capitalist. We got to ship software, make money. Ship product, make money. In most cases, or ship your internal application, reduce costs. These types of roadmaps don't show you any logic about connections. And we make it even worse with chart junk, like this fading purple stuff that makes it even harder to read. Right? You look pretty, though. I don't know how pretty. I feel a little nauseous looking at this. Then, the list with no details. Right? Just enough information, again, to illustrate a plan, but no level of detail to explain exactly what we're going to do and how it's connected. Right? So this and by the way, this was, all I did was change some colors and it sort of made this, I guess, a little cleaned up. in terms of it doesn't actually show our company name. This was what we had as our roadmap at this time period. The first quarter of 05, this is what we were using as our plan for our company. And particularly when you get into things like this, reporting and analysis. What reporting and analysis? Whose problem are you solving? And why is it important for us? The partner integration. We were unclear about the partners in the roadmap. I knew exactly which partners we're going after. I mean, partner channels for us were huge. But it's not enough information to actually explain to the people 2 or 3 steps removed, the development team, what they were going to be expected to do during that quarter, during that time period. So then we got the poor input from engineering, marketing, sales, support, services. I mean, this is my interpretation of my history. How many people actually engage with all of these stakeholders to build the roadmaps? A handful. How many product owners do we have in here? Product managers, product owners? Okay, coaches, scrum masters? Okay, cool. So I call this tail chasing. I remember tail chasing. Our offices were on one floor in New Jersey. I live in North Carolina, but I would go to New Jersey a lot. And it was tail chasing around the floor. Okay, go to VP of Engineering, Dan, hey Dan, let's talk about the roadmap, big plan. Dan would pontificate. He had the whiteboard office, you know, the wraparound whiteboards. He'd like walk and pontificate all the way around the whiteboards about all the things we had to do in the product, reduce technical debt, re-engineer this, update that. This is the plan. This is what we really got to do. Right? We'll help sales. We'll help sales. We're going to help sales by re-architecting. Okay, great. Go down the hall to Frank's office. Frank, SVP of Sales. Frank, oh, let me tell you about the big deals we got. Just had a great meeting in the city 2 days ago, and these are the features we absolutely got to build in the next quarter. Well, what about those features you told me for that last deal? Oh, that deal's dead. Build these things, right? Go down to sales bullpen, same thing, right? Get a whole another set of information. And I'm starting to recognize in my notes that none of these conversations are aligned, right? Talk to customer support. What do we need? Get the list. Not in sync at all. And I have to make a big loop around. Say, hey, Dan, I'm hearing some different things. Let's try to resolve your insights with what I'm hearing from everyone else. Try to connect. And finally, after making that tail-chasing loop of meetings 2 or 3 times, it's finally said, sit down and build it. And wind up with the Frankenstein roadmap and say, here it is, and no one's happy, right? That's one failure pattern, because we're having multiple incongruent conversations. You know, the outcome, this is the dead on arrival, right? This is what made those roadmaps suck for me. They were not believable. Dead on arrival, and that meant for us, couldn't execute and we didn't deliver on the roadmap plan itself. We delivered some parts of it, but we didn't actually deliver what we had planned or what we had published at least on paper. Okay, so why this talk? So I believe Scrum is silent in some ways on this key issue. We've got a product vision, and it's very, very hard to leap from vision to backlog. And the roadmap's the bridge, right? That's the whole point. And I'm prepared if we want to talk about, well, are roadmaps agile or not? I believe they are. I'll tell you why as we go through this. But this is the whole point. And it's every product owner class I teach is we create the vision. We spend lots of time creating vision, talking about personas, talking about customer problems, the assumptions we're making. At the end of the day, we've got to get to the backlog somehow. The intermediate plan is the roadmap. Okay, so what is it? Classic definition, we need detailed plan to guide progress, right, towards a goal. More specifically, and I'll attribute this absolutely to Ken Rubin, who really got it from Luke Homan, who established this pattern, matching short-term, long-term goals with the specific technology solutions to achieve those goals. So the illustration, I love this illustration, we're pulling things out of the roadmap to establish the backlog, and there's the bridge, okay? So having that conversation about the technical things we need to build those features we want to solve customer problems. Okay, so again, here's the disclaimer, right? I'm focused on the co-creation, the internal roadmap, something we can execute and implement and publish to all the development teams that has been created together, and in some cases we have all the development teams with us building it. The customer-facing public roadmaps may be much, much less detailed, right? The 3 columns with the list may be all we ever publish to customers. Near term, long term, just release. Those are fine. I want to get into actually building, because that's where the good stuff happens. Okay, so what are we trying to do with this document? Man, this room is tough because I feel like I got to shift from time to time. What question are we trying to answer, right? How big is the market? That's rarely ever on the roadmaps is how many customers are there? What's the total addressable market? Right? Which segment are we targeting in which time period? Thanks, Joel. Dude, don't throw your back out. All right? That's good enough. I know, it's crazy heavy. All right, so the market segments for targeting. All right, in which time period are you going to attack? Which geography? Which type of customer? For us, Fortune 500 customers were a big target. Then with small, medium-sized business, we had some government customers, some education customers. They had dramatically different needs. And that meant that we could choose how to release to those different markets and build the sales effort around that, sales and marketing. This is the one we nail. What do people actually need? What we think about as a feature list or the types of solutions we'll be offering over time. We usually get that one right. Then the milestones, when are we going to ship? How often? There's a lot of conversations about the frequency by which customers want a release. Right? My favorite example is the difference between the behind-the-scenes Facebook updates versus the Salesforce.com shipping schedule. Right? Salesforce customers want 3 releases a year. They don't want 4, they don't want 5, they want 3. They got thousands of salespeople that have to be notified and alerted to changes that are coming. And they probably don't like that many changes. They're trying to sell products. So the customers often determine how often they want delivery. We need to talk about that as a group at the same time. Then the technologies that we can leverage, this is where we engage engineering. At the same time, we're talking about what we're trying to build and for the customer market segments that we want to deliver to. Right? How are we aligning the marketing plan? And this is a big payoff here. I wasted a lot of money by having out of sync marketing events and releases. And oh my goodness, I wish I had known what I know now back in 2002 when we're talking about these big investments in VM world and Cisco networkers, EMC world, where our customers are going to be. There's always a scramble at the last minute. Got to update the demo database. I'm going to the show in a week. Can I have an hour of your time just update the demo database? We're not taking a new product to the show. We're just refreshing the old demo database. Deliberately planning those events by bringing marketing into the conversation as we're building the roadmap. Distribution channels, how are we going to go to market? Channel partners, direct sales, other channels, services. Is there any way we can get incremental revenue from services to support the delivery and adoption of the product as we're building it out? And how are we dealing with technical debt? Wouldn't it be nice to roadmap technical debt while we're talking about the trade-offs we're going to make between new feature delivery and feature development and architectural improvements? By the way, I have loads and loads of this information on my website, so you can download all of this stuff there. So here's the framework, and this is the part where you can write along as we go. So the framework, I want to talk about the time at the top. So your time is blank deliberately, okay? Because I just put this 5 quarters up here randomly. You can choose the time horizons that make sense for you. Some companies will do a 12-month roadmap only. Some companies do 36-month roadmaps, and it's completely variable. You'll see pictures that'll have month, quarter, half year. And you'll see some that have month, quarter, full year. So you decide what time horizons that you want to plan to. Okay, so it's completely variable which time horizons you select. But I do like keeping the same width of these columns as a constraint. And I think you'll see why I was going along. Okay, so this first part is like think about your product. If you're going to go back tomorrow or next week and actually have a planning conversation with your organization, what time horizon would you want to plan as you fill in the top of the chart? Is it quarters? Is it months? Sometimes you may want to get 3 sprints and then quarter and other quarters. So I'll pause there and let you take a look and think about that for a moment. All right, so let's talk about the market map. Okay, so which market segments are we targeting over what period? Okay, so again, from my context, Fortune 500, education, government. You can also think about this, and we were talking about this a few weeks ago for a product that we've built. We're looking at North America right now, and we're actually going to be expanding into India and Europe. Right, so we're actually deliberately talking about geographic launches. In a class last week, one group was saying, well, we really want to start In our local area, they're talking about a food, grocery recipe app. You know, match recipes to the food I have in my pantry and my refrigerator, and then give me a shopping list, tell me which grocery store has the stuff I need. So they're like, yep, we're going to go local DC area. Then in Q4, we'll expand to Virginia and Maryland, right? So deliberately identifying the market segments, okay? So if you want to write down your segments in that row, that'd be cool. Then the features and benefits, again, we get the features and benefits. This is a growth rate. You can draw things in terms of how you expect to grow over time. All right, then what the customers want in the next release. Okay, so the key here is the sequencing. Right? The key here is the sequence. So how big these are, not estimated. The best we can do is rough order of magnitude. Because you look at this scale here, this card maybe looks like a month and a half-ish. Is that 2 sprints? Is it 3? Not really sure. And at this point, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is this is the first feature that's the focus and the priority. Then this feature for that customer. Now, I could draw and be really OCD and try to get a connection of every single box to every other box for the sake of not creating too much chart junk here. I didn't include it. But you could make all those connections to show the customers that requested which features. What I often do is actually write the feature, write the benefit statement, and identify the source. Right? This one was requested by Intel and Sony. This one was asked for by Bank of America and JP Morgan. So either way can work. When I get to a few pictures later on, you'll see the value of having all of the connections made on the roadmap. So again, imagine a meeting where I've got sales and marketing, product management, product owners, engineering, architects, marketing, and then I've just got milestones down here. I could extend rows, by the way, as many as I wanted. I could have a row for customer support, a row for training, a row for professional services. So this is completely adaptable to whatever context you want to set and establish. Okay. Then we get into the tough stuff. Okay, what do you need to support all these new features? Right? If you want to do this, we have to update Visual Studio. For these, we're going to have to do some new architectural work. We expect it's going to run about that much time. Do I actually know the exact duration? Do I know the exact amount of time required in engineering? No, but this is giving engineering a chance to say it's going to take about this much time for us to figure it out, or figure out the architecture, or build out that architecture. Notice this one. I'm glad we're able to have the conversation here, because I don't want to find out in Q1 that engineering needs a lead time of about a quarter. Right? That's one big value here, is that you get to see the effects of new feature development against the architectural build out that you need at the same time. So, you know, thinking back to my first story, now I've got Dan in the room at the same time with Frank, the VP of sales, and other sales reps talking about, in order to do these really great new things for these customers, this is what we're going to have to do behind the scenes. And there's going to be trade-offs we need to make and adjustments. And we're building it out all simultaneously. Okay, then the market events and rhythms. Okay. So the rhythms are the annual events, or the quarterly events. Customer advisory boards, the marketing road shows, the big investments in the industry trade shows, could even be the internal events, the customer sales meetings. The sales meetings for new releases. Those are the rhythms. Periodic, known, things we can influence. The events are things that are often known but beyond our control. Two best examples I can think of are for regulatory events. For instance, you're in a regulated environment, you know that a governing body is going to make a rule change. You plan it out and say, okay, by Q2, we expect SEC is going to change some rule. I'm going to have to adapt to that rule. Or competitive threats. So we think that our competitor is going to go live with a certain capability. Let's go to market right before they do. Okay? So having that conversation, developing that view of not only how we're going to go to market, but the things that are happening around us with the market events. And then scheduling milestones, when and how often we should ship. Okay? All right, so this is what it's all about. One of my favorite Agile cartoons from Jeff Patton. So to this idea of like who's involved, the one big event that we did recently was in Toronto in the winter, which is crazy to do these things in Toronto in the winter. People flew in from the UK, people flew in from Vancouver, Atlanta, and San Antonio, and then there were 3 facilitators, one from the UK, one from Austin, and myself. Big event, expensive event. And when we're all done, the VP of Engineering said, I was very skeptical. I was willing to make the spend because the VP of Product Management convinced him that we needed to invest in doing it. And he said, the best thing about this is that we have alignment. Because the details on the roadmap are great. I probably believe about half of them but we're all aligned on the direction we're going, and we could not have done that if we had not had this event. So for him, the biggest payoff of the investment was the alignment. The face-to-face, yes, we agree. This is the direction we're going. At least we have a good plan for this quarter and probably in the next quarter. Following quarters, probably not so much. Okay? So really trying to get the strategic view on how we're going to deliver. This idea of multiple voices heard just totally levels the playing field. Right? So the tail chasing is eliminated. I'm no longer having multiple asynchronous conversations. We're having conversations at the same time. And because it's inclusive, everyone can be heard. And if you haven't seen the Google work and research on building the quest to build a perfect team, highly recommend it. All those teams shared some common patterns, and one of them was equal voice. So that's one thing we do here to get the consensus and holistic plan. Okay, so here's the first picture of what it looks like. Big, messy, takes time. Okay, multiple contributors. Again, the inclusiveness versus the exclusiveness. The more the merrier. Okay, and you can see the building here, getting the strings going, getting the milestones out across. Later on, we'll see the electronic version of what this looks like after the meeting. Okay, low tech, fast, easy. This is probably the smallest one that I've ever seen built, but this could work for a one-team initial roadmap. One flip chart, a bunch of sticky notes, and we're off and running. Okay. So scheduling enough time. My aim is for a full day. That's ideal. I always ask for a full day. I give ground to half a day if I need to, just to get the ball rolling. If people try a half day, they usually want to do a full day the next time. So this is what it looks like for a group. This is at the end of a session, and we're looking over the shoulder of VP Product. He was the new customer onboarding person, biz dev, and the SVP of Sales. Okay, so one of my favorite pictures is Brad here, the SVP of Sales. Brad, co-founder, right, and the most disruptive guy in the company. Okay, because Brad's trying to sell the product. So until we had this session, until we got Brad in the room for 5 hours, Brad was selling anything he could. Brad could have been selling out here and in here because he's just responding to his customer conversations, right? With the lack of a plan, he's selling anything. We're going to go build that. Yep, we can build that. True, we can build it. Probably not right now, but we can build it. So by getting Brad in here and getting him actually engaged, pointing, talking, say, okay, this is it, Brad. This is what to sell now. This is where we're going. That was great. Big payoff for us. Now, some other effects happen, though, here. This is a company that's learning. Does this look realistic to anybody? It's packed, right? So I pulled Ron aside, the VP of Practice, do you want to make any changes before we leave? And he's like, no, I see it too. So this is unrealistic. We're probably not going to be able to do this. He said, but we need to learn. And we're not going to learn until we try and figure out where we break. So he's willing to accept going out with this overloaded roadmap here just so we can figure out what the real true capacity a new feature delivery would be. Okay? Really packed in. What they did, now they were based in Team Foundation server, so what the product owners did was just print the features out of TFS. We cut them out, stuck them on sticky notes, put them on the wall. They learned to speed that up because what they did the first session, not really knowing what to do, they were writing and scratching on Post-it notes and posting them as we went along the first session. The second session, they got the initial plan started, and then you can see things that were written in and added throughout the day's events. And then if this is a zoomed out version, so you can sort of see the scale. So these are 3-foot by 4-foot posters. So I finally got smart. You'll see what I mean about getting smart later. I just build these grids out and giant posters, print them, and put them all together to create the space we need. Right? So 8 feet wide, 6 feet tall. And this room that we're in for this one's probably half the size of this room, and about 25, 26 people. And they all sort of cleared over here to the bar because Ron bought beer and wine when we were done. But this Tom here is my hero, because Tom's goal is a tech writer who just volunteered to say, I'll transcribe the roadmap. His goal was to deliver a Visio version of the roadmap to all 7 teams by noon the next day. Right? So even though we had the product owners in the room, I think we had 4 or 5 Scrum Masters, maybe 2 or 3 developers, the 2 architects for the company. It was a good packed group. We wanted to get it to everyone who wasn't there quickly so they could say, yep, we got a plan. This is the way we're going. And you're starting to see some of these things have here, these artifacts collecting. These are the issues list, issues that we couldn't resolve. Just capturing them and moving on with the plan best we could. What Ron did up here, he took these notes to sort of say strategic direction, to sort of guide everybody to converge as we're building it out. Here's another view. And there's 2 things here. And so before I move off this, so you can see for this company, you get this level of SVP, VP level. Here, completely different context. So this is credit card online servicing. So all credit card services, checking your balance, paying your bills, stuff like that. They wanted this is in January, so January, February, March, quarter, half year. Right? I think that she's either director level or senior director level. And for this roadmap, we're roadmapping for about 20 teams with about, I think we had about 20 people in there. So, and they're release trains, right? They're release trains. So the value of this over just building out, product manager on a release train, I'm going to build the 3-quarter to 3 PI, whatever you want to call it, feature lists. That's the way we're going. This is a much more effective roadmap to show, okay, if you want all these features, here's the architectural work you're going to have to do. Here's the training we're going to have to do internally to support these new features as we support our customers. Or you think about the online help requirements. So you can see down here we have a lot more rows because they needed more rows for their context. So again, very flexible to adapt to what you need for your rows and for communication. Okay? And so this is what I meant about getting smart. So this is John, one of my co-facilitators. John and I got in there the night before, and we didn't print posters. We just rolled out plotter paper, and then we got this laser level thing that I bought. This is 1/4-inch tape, right? Which is painful. Looks nice. And the reason we did the laser level is because we need to make these lines straight, because if the lines aren't straight, people in the room all day long will drive them crazy. Subconsciously, they'll wig out. Right? So we did the laser level to get nice straight lines. Now, going back to the question about the strings, these strings had a powerful visual effect. Okay, so this is one example of a multi-product roadmap, which drives the number of rows they had here. It took a lot of planning, by the way, to figure out what the grid should look like. So for the 2 weeks before John and I even showed up, we're talking about who was going to be in a room, what do you want to plan. Right, so customers up here, channel partners up here. Then I think we had 6 or 7 products, then architecture, then marketing, then support and sales, and some other rows. And this got worse and worse throughout the day. Okay, so I call this my Jenga architecture picture. If you want to do that, we got to do this. If you want to do that, we got to do that. And as we progressed and built out the rest, it wound up even more spaghetti. And the president of the company, at that point, at the end of the day, I'm like, how you doing? He's like, I got to go to the board because we're going to ramp down new feature development and fix our completely coupled architecture. He says, anecdotally, they knew they had a problem. Once they built the plan, they saw they had a real problem. And they saw exactly what passed and things they needed to clean up and what they needed to decouple as they went through the first quarter and into the next one. Okay? Another nice thing about this is it shows the legend. So always have a legend poster so you can capture what the lines and colors and different artifacts mean. Decisions that were made, tracking decisions. Like we decided today that We're going to go after this market segment before that market segment. Issues, questions we can't answer, right? Questions will come up and you can get very quickly into a rabbit hole, pull out and say, you know what, let's just set it aside, we'll answer that before we meet again for the quarterly update. And on the topic of quarterly update, I always plan the next session before we leave this one. Like mark your calendars, 3 months from now, we're going to meet again and refresh the roadmap. The planning time for this, I think, again, another 30 people involved here. I think we gave them about 3 weeks notice so they could really clear the day, plan to come to Colorado and do this, another Denver in the winter. Why we do things in the winter, I don't know, in cold places. Because there was snow out this winter, lots of snow. 3 weeks to get ready. And as another, I did this in Raleigh a few weeks ago. What do people need to do to get ready? So for product, it's easy. Bring the prioritized list of features that you're planning. Describe the benefits, describe who it's for. Engineering, I'd have a conversation. Here's what we're thinking about the features and solutions. Please come prepared with things that you need to support that. Talking to marketing, bring the marketing plan. Just bring the marketing plan. All the events, all the investments we're making. Same with customer support. Bring your list of needs so we can try to align and converge. The space, for this one, we cleared out a bunch of picnic tables to the back and just created this area you see here. Lots of room for people to come up to the wall and interact and do things. Lots of supplies on the shelf in this chair so people could participate. We planned a lunch break and the food and beverage, and then just plan to capture everything. So John and I had a responsibility to capture this one, Tom in the last slide. Let me do him and then you. Yes, sir? So I would say we're not at the backlog level, we're more at the feature epic level, although I don't like saying epics and features in the same sentence because epics are just big user stories. I'm at the feature level, and I call it things that move the needle. I'm at the feature level, things that are going to cause a customer action, right? I'm going to get a renewal, I'm going to get a new customer, expansion of the business, or cost reduction for us, right? So, customer support. I always try to get something in my release for customer support that would help them make their lives easier. Better be debugger, something easier for them to do analysis on typical customer problems, faster response, decreased costs like call handle time, things like that. So I'm sorry, the question was capacity-wise, how do you know when you've got too much packed into a particular time period? And I literally think it's when you actually have realistic data. So thinking about the empiricism or inspect and adapt, they really didn't have data yet. This company was on a fast growth path. So their data coming into this was, well, we used to have 3 teams, now we have 6 teams. They were growing that fast. They didn't really know how many things they could do in a particular quarter. But I know what Ron told me afterwards. When I came back, they trimmed down probably about 30% fewer things because in the previous quarter they had delivered like 6 features per product line. Yeah.
So you use historical data if you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, you start using historical data as you come in, refresh and refresh and refresh.
Quick question. The color coding here, what is it?
The color coding here didn't mean anything. Yeah, this one. The real story was we walked into the room and the product owners all came and said, here we go, and they had them all cut out. And I brought the stack of sticky notes. And I was like, quickly, let's get them all slapped on the sticky notes. And people just grabbed sticky notes and slapped them all on there. So these colors didn't mean anything. Here they started to mean some things here. And then having a plan to capture it and turn it into an electronic format. In terms of scale, you can do this really big. So this was a situation where we wanted everybody to come. So at this company, we got their auditorium. It's like 30 feet high, it's a huge room, fantastic for this purpose. So 8 teams plus product leadership plus the program manager, because it was a program for business process management. The things, if you're going to do a really big event like that, you probably want more than one facilitator. I called Luke before I was going to go there and said, Luke, I'm going to do a road mapping with 7 teams. He said, great, how many facilitators? Oh, me. He's like, you're crazy. Well, that's all I got right now. We're going to go do it. The things we learned about doing this is actually allowing the chaos to happen. Right, so it was very chaotic for the first 90 minutes or so. People gravitate to where they want to work. So everybody was adding things into the roadmap. And after about 90 minutes, we stepped back and took a break. It was a quick debrief to identify what needed to be deconflicted. And then jump back into the chaos for about another 90 minutes, step back, debrief. People sort of went to lunch, and it was right around behind the roadmap. Came back out with their food and started walking and talking and making some minor adjustments, then went for another 90 minutes, and then the same debrief. The one thing, if you're going to do something big like this, is when you're thinking about particularly architecture, for this scenario where we were doing business process management for the entire company, bring in some of those key enterprise architect leaders or other engineering leaders for debriefing in the morning. Because when, in this case, we made a mistake. The enterprise architect came in at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we had light bulb moments with him. He's like, what you don't know is, right around here, we're going to release a new framework for this. And that caused some quick readjusting. If we'd only had that conversation with him before lunch, we had a better plan going out in some of these further time periods. So getting that input and feedback from people who may not be participating the whole time to share information that people in the room may not have is critical. Okay, and this is what it looks like when you convert it digitally. So this is the version of the first picture I showed you with the 6 or 7 people at the wall. The cool thing they did here was color code the release. Right? So you can see this release happening here, the green-ish release, connected to these features, this architectural work. And they had an integration layer, and they had a services layer down here. Okay, then you got the orange release. You can see this type of runway required to get out to this bluer release. Okay? So this just plain Visio template, which I'm more than happy to share with anyone from my website. Okay. So in terms of input, so the program guide promised 2 versions to do this. Whoa. So I'm going to be talking about this pruned product tree, so a divergent way to get the input into the roadmap. So thinking about, well, where did the features come from? Okay, so I love pruned product tree. If you're not familiar with pruned product tree, it's a great road mapping game to play with customers and stakeholders, because there's just enough structure in here to build out the ideas. So the apples represent things that will help the product grow. So the metaphor of the product as the tree, strong, sturdy trunk, healthy canopy that's balanced, a good root structure down at the bottom. So the idea here is to engage with customers and stakeholders, say, what type of things do you want to see in the product to solve your problems over time? So time is going this way. So things on the outside are much longer time horizon than things that are right down here. The low-hanging things, build this first, then one of these 3. Okay, so this would be the features going into the roadmap. This doesn't have it. What I often draw is a very dark line going across the tree to split the time horizon, either 1 or 2 bands to show 1, 2, 3, or short-term, mid-term, long-term delivery. Branches can be used to group common things. My product had lots of reporting and analytics. So reporting and analytics would go this way. It was a billing product, so we had billing models going this way. Configuration would be in the middle, collecting of data. So these apples literally become the items that go into the roadmap. And this you can do online. Right?
What's the name of this?
The name of the what?
You said, what's the name of this?
The name of this framework is called Prune the Product Tree. And the product where you can do this is called Contenio Weave. Right? So Contenio Weave is purpose-built for multiple people to engage and build the apples and drag them around and share the apples and moving them. So this would be for 6 to 8 customers or stakeholders to gather around the tree and build it. Right? Product management is really observing and facilitating and watching this happen. Yep.
You might want to spell Contenio.
Contenio, C-O-N-T-E-N-E-O. And the product is Weave. Right? And the nice thing about Weave is you can build, so this would be a picture of a tree. You could also build the roadmap grid and try to do this virtually, where you have multiple people moving items on the big grid. Okay. The routes here could also be, there aren't any apples or items down here in the bottom, but you could also look down here and think about, well, what support and services and training and other infrastructure do we need to support the product? Again, I would have put my customer support features down here. Online help would have been down here. Training, internal training, internal tools have been down at the bottom in the routes. It's a great framework for building out together. This is what it looks like live. Hey, there's someone in the room right here. Right? It's Joel. Right? So you can see these live trees being built. You can see some of the lines. I mean, it's not a great picture, but you can see the lines here separating different type elements. Up close here to trees being added. A lot of collaboration around the board. This was a set of 3 different trees that were going to be merged. So getting multiple groups together and then trying to merge them together. Very effective framework for divergent roadmap creation and building out the features that can then be an input for a more detailed, structured roadmap with the grid as a pattern. Okay, plan to replan. Sir.
Some of your prior, if you have, say, a strategic partnership with other vendors, alliance with somebody, do you engage them in the process?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the question was, if you have strategic partnerships with other vendors or other partners, do you engage them? Absolutely. I bring them in this kind of event.
I think it would be great to know what are the next steps after you're done here.
Yeah.
So what do? You have your features with your themes, your features. So how do you now translate that into your backlog, right?
Yeah.
Another session, I'm guessing. But,
well, it's a great question. So he's asking, what do I do next? Well, what do I do with all this fantastic output? And you're exactly right. This literally would be the things I would focus on decomposing into my backlog items. So the typical product owner, day-to-day business, I'm going to go take this thing and decompose it into sprint size executable backlog items. The vertical slicing, the actual refinement of these items into the backlog, that's the next step. So when I'm talking about this in class, like, when would I do this, thinking in time? There's no flip chart in here. If I'm going at the end, don't worry about it, Joel. If I'm just finishing a release, probably a month before we ship, I'd update the roadmap, which gives me about a month to build the backlog. So on my release planning day, let's assume quarterly releases, that first sprint of 6 2-week sprints, we'll do release planning on that day and just have a 9-day sprint. And we're off and running. So the roadmap to me is a precursor to get into release planning. And that time lag between the road mapping and the release planning day, I'm hustling to build the backlog.
so this is pretty high level here.
Oh, this is definitely high level. Yeah. What other questions can I answer?
How do you handle interruption into your roadmap, meaning that you have done your planning for the quarter, it sounds like,
Yeah.
and the partnership just got signed up, and the salesperson made the deal that it's going to get accommodated in this quarter?
Yes. How do you deal with interruptions? Those violations of our plan by the salespeople who are closing deals? Yes, I think that's where the readjustment of the backlog happens, and we're looking at what are the trade-offs we're going to make. So sales closes something here is required. I'll readjust my backlog. So the roadmap is the plan that gets us into building the backlog. If I need to make the change to the backlog, I can make the change to the backlog just so I would with it, even if I didn't have the roadmap.
Yeah, but more of, are you handling it through some sort of an intake meeting, or how do you deal with it?
So how do you deal with the intake of new ideas?
Let's stay with that partnership. New partnership,
Yeah.
sign, you need to build something for them. It's in the middle of your quarter.
Yeah.
You had a roadmap laid out for the quarter.
Yeah. So I've really strong beliefs on be open to other expert opinions too. I believe that the backlog should be open. Right? So you think about intake meetings. I don't know if I believe in intake meetings as much as I believe in the sprint review being a place where we talk about what we're going to do next as the opportunity to get that input into the sprint review, because that's the meeting designed for it. So I'm very much Scrum oriented, obviously. So sprint review talking about what's changing in the market, what do we need to think about, what are we going to reorient the plan, how are we going to deal with the feedback we just got from this review and the trade-offs against what we plan for the next sprint. That would be, to me, the channel for verbal intake. The channel for inputs into the backlog, I believe in open systems. Right? I learned my lesson the hard way that as sitting as the hub, as the product manager, product owner, emailing, hallway conversations, Post-it notes dropped on my desk. I've had cocktail napkins dropped on my desk by sales reps. And we got an open system that I could take the nasty cocktail napkin back to Gary, and it was Gary that always did it. Gary put this in the feature plan. So he would have had a channel to send it in. Customers also had the ability to send in requests that went directly to the backlog. So I had one place to go and look, and it was a single source of everything. And I basically did the first pass of grooming of all those new inputs. Deduplicating, nice idea, garbage can. I love Jeff Patton's pictures of trash cans. Right? Nice idea, we're never going to do that. Throw it away. So yeah, so the intake to me is both systemic, with whatever framework we've got available to receive inputs, as well as through the sprint review to say, okay, what trade-offs are we willing to make? Because to me, that's a trade-off meeting. Yep. Because even while we're in this quarter, if someone makes a change, reprioritize accordingly, right? When we get this next boundary, we replan again. So that's why I close with plan to replan. Does that answer your question?
I mean, I was kind of hearing in the comment is, do you then kind of revisit this every so often?
Every quarter.
Once a quarter?
Every quarter.
I mean, what if you had if you do your planning and say, oh gosh, we need more sprints to do something here, and it's going to change expectations. How do you communicate the changes in expectations?
So how do you communicate the changes in expectations when things change?
All the different stakeholders.
Yeah. Well, one, they're there with me. The vast majority of stakeholders are there with me. And secondly, I communicate out with, here's what we all decided. I put the, in this template, down the tabs, who is in the room. There's a long list of people who are in the room, right?
But that's your initial plan, but say, a month or two later, things change. Now you don't have everybody in the room now.
Yeah.
Kind of using this as this is Scrums kind of thing? Or?
So how do we communicate the change outside this? I go back to, again, to the sprint review. The sprint review is a place where I'd be communicating those updates and changes, and we're collaborating and talking about that in the second half of the sprint review. Okay, now that we've got to where we are, see these new inputs, let's all get on the same page about what we're doing next sprint and a couple sprints later, so we know what's, we're trying to zero in on what the release is. Right, so again, there's an idea, oh, there is a flip chart. Now I know what Joel's going to go help. I'm going to tear down the place. All right, so if I'm looking at, let me stand back here. So we're looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Typically, I put the iron triangle here, right? So locking in on the release. So I've done the roadmap out here and said, okay, here are the key features that we want delivered in this release, right? I'm going along building, getting a little bit crisper on what's going to be in the release. I'm looking at this iron triangle based on the longest lead times. Right? So marketing needs so much time to build out the collateral. We need at least a week of sales training. Professional services need some time. Update the website and so on. Right? So all of this, where this triangle is, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. Right? But I've got some ability to continue adjusting, and as things change and new items come in, I can keep adjusting and adjusting. It's really, when I get to this point here, we're locked in. Right? So I believe that this is adaptive. I mean, I know it is. It is even for me right now with the product that we have online. That we've got a plan, but we're willing to change the plan based on what's happening in the marketplace with technology, the ability of teams to perform. I mean, they're not always perfect either. So it's either, things are going not so good and we're expanding this way, or hey, we're going faster than we thought we would. So I think there's enough area here to be flexible and adaptive based on the inputs and the situations changing around us. Yes?
So if you have a large portfolio of related products, how do you recommend rolling this up?
So if you have a large portfolio of products, how do you think about rolling this up? That's this one. So for this one here, this was a portfolio. They just shared a common platform, which created this craziness. Because as companies grow and things happen over time, they're trying to go fast, they're trying to go quickly. It's just they overcoupled the architecture as they evolved over time. So they reached the point where they had to decouple. So this would be multiple products on the same platform. Now at a team level, you can do another session We're just say, okay, let's just talk about us and our team. That could be a second session if needed. For them, they didn't need that. They had enough information here to get right into backlog development and planning. Back in the room. Appliedframeworks.com. Appliedframeworks.com. I put the link in. Yeah, this blog, this post down here. It's a long link. I'll just leave it up here for afterwards. Sorry. But this is where you can get the templates and slides if you want to go back and look at this later. And we're going to be posting a video of this and more information from this session. What other questions can I answer?
Question for facilitation. Some of us will probably try this with our companies. Is it good for the product person to try to be the facilitator, or should there be someone else to do the facilitation so that the product person is more of a engaged person?
Question, facilitator, definitely not product. You want a Scrum Master, coach, somebody who's completely disconnected and neutral and can watch the room, watch the energy, watch the time. Definitely a neutral facilitator. Yes, ma'am. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I noticed with the Mass Mutual slide, it looked like you guys were doing that on a sprint.
Yes.
So when you're sprint road mapping, you already kind of do that pre-work you were showing on a, do they need to come prepared with just what their asks are, or should they have sort of done a higher level planning?
Yeah, so the question was on the Mass Mutual slide, she saw that they were sprint-sized increments. It's simply goals. In this sprint, this goal or maybe 2 goals, and that's it. Very high level, focused here, focused there. And this is the way we're building out that way. Yep. Was there someone next to you had one? Yes, sir.
So where's the conversation happening around kind of ROI or long-term customer value or cost of customer? How is that conversation happening?
So where's I heard long-term business value, ROI.
Yeah, so the money conversation.
The money conversation.
At the end of the day, you're going to generate some revenue from this product, but it's going to cost you some
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah, so let's talk about the revenue first. On these cards, I put down what the driver was. Like Intel is renewing in this quarter, we've got to build this or they don't write the big check, right? So there were definitely data points on these cards that identified the source and the expected benefits, customer benefits and benefits to us as a software company, right? That's the return part. To me, the investments are fixed. I mean, financial accounting, from my point of view, for Agile is easy. I'm funding teams, right? So I'm looking at this particular row, this 2 teams times cost of team, that's our investment. So, you know, the higher level business case, I think, is not, I'm assuming there is a higher level business case already, right? Building this product with this vision to have this kind of high level outcome to drive our company. Anything else? Yes?
So when you have the multiple teams, do you start with just at the team level and then roll up into the portfolio, or start higher and roll down?
So when you have multiple teams and products, you start at team level and roll up the portfolio, or down the other way. Any way to get started, because people don't do enough of this. So whatever it takes to get that first meeting, get the first meeting. I mean, really, I think this is a massively important topic to actually collaborate to build the big plan to then get us into the team level backlog discussion. So whatever you can do to get started, do it. And if you want help, let me know, because I'm more than happy to talk about this anytime. I love it. It's passion of mine. And he's holding up the done sign. So I'm here all week. Pick your waitresses. Thank you.